WAVE is used for custom designing gas permeable contact lenses, and WAVE is particularly useful when designing lenses for ortho-K. This case is a 57-year-old woman, minus 125 on the right, minus 175 on the left. Her primary interest is sewing, so she has a very high near demand. Currently, she's wearing a progressive edition lens and is taking her glasses off all the time and using over-the-counter reading glasses that she has found that are very inexpensive that she can use to when she needs to put on a plus 250 over and above her myopia. She can see fine detail quite well, but she's on and off with the glasses all the time because of her activities. Progressive lenses work quite well, but they don't have a very good field of view, and apparently her hobby requires her to have a generous field of view, so she's, like I say, removing her glasses and using over the counters. She had done ortho-K 10 years ago and wore them for quite a long time. It was 15 years ago. Wore them for quite a long time and discontinued because of the presbyopia coming on. Now this is a map of the right eye taken with the Scout Topographer, and I like to customize my display of the map. For example, by right-clicking on the map, I can select options, and I can instruct the software to show me the pupil, and when I do that, you will see the pupil appear on that, so you can see where the pupil is located. Also, under options, I can say show me 3 zones. What 3 zones does is it places some concentric circles on the screen. The central circle is 3 millimeters, the second one is 5, and the third one is 7 millimeters in diameter. And the reason I like to leave this on the screen all the time with the pupil also is so that I can just very quickly gauge the size of the pupil. I can easily look at this and say that pupil is probably about 4 millimeters. It's somewhere between the 3 and 5, it's offset a little bit, but it's about 4 millimeter pupil, which is a good size pupil for ortho-K. The other option that I like to have on the screen all the time is where it says axis plus grid. I'll put that on the screen, and you can see a grid is overlaying on the map. This grid is 1 millimeter increments. It's 12 by 12, so again I can very quickly see what the diameter of this cornea is. It's not 12, it's probably a little short of 11. Now I did notice in this picture, and it shows up better with the slit lamp, she has a pinguecula starting up over here on the right eye, which is another point about inspecting my topography. Now this is a good map, but you'll notice it's kind of splotchy. There's spots, little flat areas here and there, little steep areas here and there, flat, steep, flat, steep. And what these indicate is that this is a dry eye, and the pinguecula is also an indication. That's why she's not been able to successfully wear any of the soft multifocals successfully for any length of time because of dryness. So this is a good occasion to try to use ortho-K to give her a lifestyle that's a little easier to manage. I'll bring the default lens on the screen. This is what WAVE is default view is, and as you can see the map has been smoothed a little bit, but what I decided to do in this case was I wanted to use a relatively small optic zone compared to what I normally do, because I wanted some of the red ring, some of the steepness to be inside the pupil to try to give her good intermediate distance vision. So I decided that I would use a 6.0 treatment zone with a reverse curve set out at about 6.6. I also decided that for a diameter I would use a 10.5 because of this pinguecula over to the side. So I'll go to Tools and Configuration Settings, and I'll select the standard ortho-K example, and I'll adjust these settings to suit my plan. There's my optic zone is 6.0. My reverse curve will be 6.6. Apical clearance, I'll put that at about 5. Then my edge thickness and my center thickness. I'll reduce my target power. I don't want to overcorrect her too much, and I'll change my diameter to the 10.5 that I wanted. I'm using a rotational simple lens in axial mode, and I'm engaging the blending option here. Let's let Wave calculate this lens now. This is the result of the calculations that Wave performed based on those requirements. I look at the flat meridian, it looks pretty good. I have my apical clearance of 5. And then I look at the steep meridian. Now, something I noticed some years back is that when doing ortho-K, particularly for a kind of a dry eye, it's helpful to make the lens so that where the reverse curve comes down, it's at about the same level of where the apical clearance is. So I want to bring this down somewhat. I'll go ahead and do that and try to get them closer into alignment. Now I've got an apical clearance of about 8 or 9, which is okay. So I feel like I get a better result when these two are closer to the same height right here, and let the apical clearance right up a little bit. Now Wave gives me the option to view the lens several different ways. This is called the geometrically symmetrical tear film, and what the software does is it mathematically averages both sides so that the lens looks like it's the same on both sides. Well, in real life the eye is never the same on both sides, so we also give the option to view the design in freeform mode. And in freeform mode we can see that the lens looks like it's a little flat in the periphery on that side and a little steep in the periphery on the other side. When we look above and below, we see where the tear layer is, but we're still pretty much in alignment, pretty close. I don't obsess over microns. I look for the quality of the design. So when I look at this, I think, well, this might push my lens off center, so I'm going to raise this up a little bit until this point right here has a tear layer of about 5 or 6. Notice as I lift this periphery, it doesn't affect this too much, but it does affect the alignment of the other side. I'll go just one more step. So yeah, maybe another one, till we're in the 6s there. And then I look above and I see that that's 19 and this is 12. And I'll go back to the symmetrical mode and again inspect this. That's about 8. This looks pretty good. I'm kind of liking the way this all looks, so I'm going to go with this design. By the way, she does place the lenses on before she goes to sleep at night, but she reads every evening, so I'll also add a multifocal to the front surface of the lens so that she can enjoy her bedtime reading. Maybe a 225 with a center distance, and I'll make that center distance small, about a 3 millimeter. And then I can order this lens and then observe how it performs as an ortho-K lens on the first day following wear. Let's proceed to the left eye. This is now our left map. It looks very similar to the right eye. The K's were very similar, but once again we see this splotchy presentation where we see these little flat and steep areas out in the mid-periphery, indicating that we have some dryness concerns here. I'm going to follow exactly the same protocol. I'll begin by using my standard ortho-K definition to give me a good starting place. And again, I'll use 6.0 as the optic zone and 6.6 for the reverse curve, and give it a apical clearance of about 5, and set my target power a little bit low. In some of these cases I've gone as low as plus 50 to plus 75 to improve intermediate distance. My overall diameter, and again I'm using these same settings, and we'll let the software design or calculate this particular lens. After Wave has done its calculations, this is our initial presentation. Looks pretty good. There's our 5 millimeter apical clearance. We look in the steep meridian, and once again we see a difference between the tear layer, which is about 12-13 microns at this point, and we have the apical clearance of 5. So we need to bring this down so that these two are closer in line. I'm clicking the down arrow And now we're 10 and 13, maybe a little bit more. And then I'll look at it in freeform mode as I did before, and notice I have a similar effect where it's a little steeper on one side, a little flatter on the other. And I'll raise this up to some degree, letting this area get down to close to about 5 microns, maybe a little more. Not like that. Then I look at the steep meridian, and one way I determine whether I'm comfortable staying in a rotational symmetrical design is when I look at the worst meridians, the steep meridians, and I go to about the midpoint, and as long as my tier layer, which is displayed in the upper left corner, as long as my tier layer in here is below 30, I'm comfortable that an RSIM lens will work just fine. And it is. It's looking pretty good. I'll go back to the geometrically symmetrical view and see that I've got about a apical or clearance of 10 now. That's getting a little bit rich, so I'll reduce it by 2 microns so that it matches more similarly to the other eye. It's about 8.5 now. So this is looking pretty good. I've already put the add on here, once again just dialing in a 225 center distance add, but I do need to adjust the pupil size. Here we are at 3.6. I need to bring that down to about 3. And now I can order this lens. I just click order and enter in relevant data. The material, typically Boston XO, identify whether it's right or left, what the shipping method is, what color I want, plasma treatment. I've had good luck with plasma treatment myself, so I usually go with that. And I typically don't dot the right lens because the right lens is going to be red and the left lens is going to be yellow. So I'll accept this and order the lens. Now let's view the post-wear effect. This was one day. This was the morning after wearing the lens overnight for one night. This is the post-wear for the right eye. As you can see, I have a flat area in the center and a steep area in the periphery. I can do a difference map that will show me. I'll need to swap A, B so that it's flat in the center and steep in the periphery. And you can see that I've flattened this pretty significantly out in the middle, but I do have in the margin of the pupil out here, I still have some plus for her. I've got some red that's kind of leaking into the pupil, trying to give her a little bit of near vision even without her lenses on at all. But we got a good centered treatment, nice and symmetrical, and I was happy with that one-day result, and so was the patient. Let's look at the left eye too. Similarly, a well-centered pattern, not quite as symmetrical, it's not quite as steep out here, but we did get a really good effect. I'll do a difference map once again. And again, because I know it's not going to be steep in the middle, it's be flat in the middle, I'll change it to swap A and B. And you can see that we got nice flattening with a little bit of red showing up in this close to this 3 millimeter, just a little bit inside the 4 millimeter pupil there. But I was very happy with this result on the left eye, and again the patient was satisfied as well. So now let's give it some time and see what it looks like after almost a month. Since we're looking at the left right now, this is the left eye after a month. The junctions have gotten a little more sharp, a little bit better defined. The flattened area in the middle is pretty similar. So really the visual performance of this lens is almost the same as it was after the first night's wear. It's a nice stable effect, and it's working out quite well for the patient. Let's look at the right eye after a month. Let me clear these off the screen. This was the 1 day and this was the 1 month. Again, a similar effect where the border of the treatment zone is a little more distinct, a little better defined. We still have a little bit of steepness leaking into the margin of the pupil, which was my goal. So I was very happy with the result for both the right and the left eye, and the patient continues to wear the lens successfully. So that's how you use WAVE to customize your ortho-K designs. There's a lot of different options. There's a lot of different things you can do, and the more you do ortho-K, the more you want to try different things to tweak and to enhance and to differentiate yourself from other people who are doing ortho-K in your area.